Today we are going to discuss BFS. What is BFS? BFS is known as breadth first search. It is also known as breadth first traversal. What we do in BFS? There are two steps to follow. One is visiting and the second one is exploration. What is the meaning of visiting? Visiting means we have to visit all the vertex of our given tree. We can visit any of the vertex first. Like we can visit 9 as our first vertex, 1 as our first vertex, 5 as our first vertex, and also 7 as our first vertex. And the second step to follow is exploration. What is exploration? Exploration means we have to visit the adjacent vertex of our selected vertex. What is the meaning of adjacent vertex? Let me tell you with an example. For example, if we select 1 as our first vertex, in exploration we have to visit 2 and 4 as its adjacent vertex because 2 and 4 are the adjacent vertex of 1. But if we select 5 as our vertex, we have to visit its adjacent vertices, which are 6, 7 and 4. If we select 9 as our selected vertex, we have to visit its adjacent vertex, which is only 3. If we select 8 as our first vertex or selected vertex, we have to visit only 3 because there is only one adjacent vertex of 8, which is 3. So this term is known as exploration. Let me start with a queue data structure. Wait a minute. Let me get it clear. Let me zoom the screen. So here I make a queue data structure. This is our queue data structure. Let me start traversing. First I visit 1 as our selected vertex. You can also visit 9 as your first vertex, but I am choosing 1. So first step is clear. I have visit 1 as our first vertex. Now for exploration, I have to go towards its adjacent vertices, which are 2 and 4. 2 and 4. Here I visit the adjacent vertices of 1, which are 2 and 4. So now 1 is completely explored. Let me cut 1. Now what is our next vertex? Which is 2. 2 is our next vertex. So choose it as your selected vertex. 2 is our selected vertex now because 1 is completely explored before. So move towards the adjacent vertex of 2, which are 3 and 1. 1 was completely explored before, so you don't have to write 1 again if it is already written. So let's write the adjacent vertex of 2, which is 3. So 2 is completely explored now. Our next vertex is 4. The adjacent vertex of 4 is 1 and 5. 1 was already explored, so let me just write 5 into the box. So 4 is completely explored now. Our next vertex is 3. The adjacent vertex of 3 are 2, 8 and 9. 8 and 9. The sorry guys, 8. So this is 8. But there is one vertex left, which is 2. We don't need to write 2 here because 2 was already explored before. So 3 is completely explored now. So our next vertex is 5. The adjacent vertex of 5 are 2, which is 6 and 7. 6 and let me make a new box. So 6, the adjacent vertex of 5 is 6 and 7. Okay, so right here 6 and 7. So 5 is completely explored now. Yes, now 8. 8 is our next selected vertex. The adjacent vertex of 8 is only 3, which was already explored, so cut 3. Same as for 9. The adjacent vertex of 9 is only 3, which was already explored. Now 6 is our next selected vertex. The adjacent vertex of 6 is only 5, which was already explored, so cut 6. And the last one is 7. The adjacent vertex of 7 is also 5, which was already explored, so it, it will be also cut 7. Now there it is known as BFS traversing, breadth first traversing. The two steps to follow for the queue data structure in BFS is number one is you have to add your selected vertex into the queue and then select vertex for exploration for queue. For example, first we choose 1 as our first vertex, so we add it into the queue box. It is known as queue data structure box. Okay, then we select vertex for exploration from queue. The selected vertex are 2 and 4 because for exploration we move towards the adjacent vertices of our selected vertex. So these two steps are we have to follow in the BFS. Let me give you some examples. For this type of tree or for this tree we can write uh, almost 9 to 10 type of traversing, but let me tell you with two or three examples for this tree. Let me start here with 1. First we choose 1 as our selected vertex, then our second step was move towards our second step was exploration. which is move towards its adjacent vertices. The adjacent vertex of 1 is 2 and 4. First I will move towards 4. Then I move towards 2. It's my own choice. Okay. So our next vertex is 4. 1 was completely explored. I am not cutting 1 here. It's just like this. But 1 is completely explored now because we already visited its all adjacent vertices, which is 4 and 2. So our next vertex is 4. 4 is our next vertex, so move towards its adjacent vertex, which is only 5. Okay, so 4 is completely explored now. Our next vertex is 2. 2 is our next vertex. Move towards its adjacent vertices, which is 3 and 1. 1 was completely explored before, so only write 3. So 2 is completely explored now. Our next vertex is 5. 5 is our next vertex. So the adjacent vertex of 5 are 2, which is no, sorry. There are 3 adjacent vertices of 5, which is 6, 7, and 4. 4 was completely explored before, so just write 6 and 7. You don't have to write the visited vertex again and again. You just have to write it once. So 5 is completely explored now. Our next vertex is 3. Okay. The adjacent vertex of 3 are also 3, which is 8, 9, and 2. 2 was already explored before, so just write 8 and 9. So 3 is completely explored now. The adjacent vertex, our selected vertex, our next selected vertex is 6. So the adjacent vertex of 6 are 5, which was already explored, so 6 is already explored now. Our next vertex is 7. The adjacent vertex of 7 is 5, so 7 is explored now, completely explored. Our next vertex is 8. The adjacent vertex of 8 is 3, which was already explored, so 8 is explored now. Our last vertex is 9, which adjacent vertex is 3, so 9 is completely explored now. So we can do this type of traversing. Let me start with one more example. Let me give you another example. Here I am starting with 4 as our first vertex. I can choose any of the vertex of this tree as our first vertex in BFS. So let me start. I can choose one also. Again, one. I am choosing one again. Here I choose one. Now the adjacent vertex of 1 is 2 and 4. Now 1 is completely explored now. Now I am choosing 4 as our next vertex. The adjacent vertex of 4 is 5. So 4 is completely explored now. Our next vertex is 2. The adjacent vertex of 2 is 3 and 1. 1 was already explored, so just write 3. Our next vertex is 5. The adjacent vertex of 5 is 6 and 7. So, sorry. Let me start it again. Let me start with 1 as our first vertex. The adjacent vertex of 1 is 2 and 4. Okay, so now 1 is completely explored. The adjacent vertex, now select 2 as our first vertex. The adjacent vertex of 2 is 8 and 9. Sorry, it is 3 and 1. 1 was completely explored before, so let's write 3 only. So 2 is completely explored now. 4 is our next vertex. The adjacent vertex of 4 is 5 only and 1. 1 was completely explored before, now write 5 only. So 4 is completely explored now. Our next vertex is 3. The adjacent vertex of 3 is 2, 8 and 9. So 2 was already explored, just write 8 and 9. So 3 is completely explored now. Our next vertex is 5. The adjacent vertex of 5 is 6 and 7 and 4 also, but we don't have to write it again. So 5 is explored now, and all the other vertices also. You can also make traversing by choosing 9, 5, 6, 7, any of them as your first vertex, and it will be true. There are also false statement in traversing. You can also check it. Thanks, and please subscribe to my channel. I am a student of NFC IIT CS department. Good luck.